In today's YouTube video, we're going over my Season 6 top 5 best guns you guys should be using. This is after going over all the patch notes, all the updates, figuring out what guns are going to be the best. And so now I got all the builds for you guys here today. If you enjoy, be sure to give it a like, subscribe with notifications turned on, and let's hop into this. Our first gun we're taking a look at here today is going to be the FR Advancer. This got a pretty decent update, a pretty decent buff here within the update. So this thing is actually going to be incredibly good here. Probably will overtake the M13B since that did indeed get nerfed. So this is going to be the ideal build for it. So first one is going to be the X10 ported 90 to help us out that vertical recoil control. This gun doesn't bounce around too much to the sides. We don't have to worry about too much. The tuning on that is going to be a plus 0.54 and a plus 0.19. Now we're gonna go up in here and run the 435 millimeter FR435 barrel. Don't want to know why they doubled up on those numbers, but this is the barrel we're going to be running for the increase in recoil control, hip recoil control, and bullet velocity. You would think it would probably be the best way to go would be able to run, the long bore barrel because it gives you the increase in damage range, but you actually get the recoil control benefit with this barrel here as opposed to long bore. So ultimately, it ends up being significantly more effective when you run the 435 instead of the 600. It's just kind of one of those things. I've tested it out both ways, and it's definitely way more effective this way. The tuning on that is gonna be a plus 0.24 and a plus 0.13. Now we're gonna go down here and run the FTAC Gripper 56 for aiming idle stability, hip fire accuracy, and of course recoil stabilization. This is just one of those things we always run on a variety of different guns because it's so unbelievably good. The tuning on that is gonna be a plus 0.80, pretty much maxed out for recoil stabilization, and a minus 0.18 there on the bottom. Now we're gonna go run the 60 round mag. We have the option here to run the 45 round mag or the 60. 110% go for the 60 round mag. I am a 60 round mag kind of guy, kind of as is, but you should always go for the 60 here kind of regardless. This is a high fire rate gun, so you definitely need to be hitting those rounds down range fast. Last definitely not least, we have the MW2, but if you guys really want to go in here, this is kind of one of those like personal preference categories. As long as you're not doing something like a sniper scope, I mean, you can pretty much get away with running the MW2. You can go for something like the SE Recharge, which I've ran on a variety of my different guns. It kind of just depends on what I'm feeling like. Or if you really want to go for something like me, like the Corona Mini Pro, get a nice little red dot sight on there, that will work out as well. But you should pretty much be tuning these obviously the same way as well. So the tuning is going to be minus 1.26 and then maxed out for that far distance. You should always tune your sights for that increase in ADS speed. However, it ends up lining up best. And then closer far distance on the bottom, it does not matter. That is a personal thing. Whether you want it to be farther or closer, it's not going to matter, and it's not going to dictate, the general effectiveness of your gun. It is what do you prefer. So that's my full build there for the FR Advancer. Next up, we're covering the ISO 45 SMG. So this gun I've used here a little bit more recently, and this is going to be a great gun here after the update. So I would highly recommend you guys actually try this build out. It's super mobile and very, very easy to be able to use. The first attachment here is going to be the Spiral V3.5 flashlighter for that muzzle flash concealment and recoil steadiness. This is crucial to actually making this gun actually work because this thing will bounce around and it will be hard to see out of those iron sights. So if you have that muzzle flash, it's bouncing around, it's not going to be fun to use. The tuning is going to be a minus 0.23 and a plus 0.22. Now we're going to go up in here and run the 7EX Raptor V2 barrel. So this barrel right here is definitely something I'd highly recommend for you guys to be able to run. As opposed to the 9PTX trainer, this is something more if you're going for the sniper support route, you'd probably go for that one. But otherwise, you're going to go for the EX Raptor V2. This is just the best one all around to make it really effective at close range, and you're not going to notice any of those cons too much. It's just something you kind of have to just get used to. But honestly, this is just like the ideal build for it anyway, so you're not really going to get much better than this. The tune on that is going to be minus 0.18 to plus 0.25 there on the bottom. Now we're going to go down and run the 45 round drum. It comes with 30 rounds stock, which of course is not acceptable if you're making a loadout. Obviously we don't even want to pick up the 30 rounds on the ground anyways, so we just going to throw in the 45. It's kind of like one of those, you can't do without attachments. Now we're gonna go back here, run the EXP shear for the increase in sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed, just kind of increasing your overall mobility. The faster you ADS, the better you have that sprint to fire. Obviously, the more effective you are going to be at close range, the more gunfights you should in theory win, as long as you're able to hit your shots. But this is kind of giving you the best opportunity to be able to do that. The tuning is to be a minus 0.23 and a minus 0.30. And last but definitely not least, up here, the Demo Fate Tag stock. I've said this a couple of times. I've talked about the ISO. I've yet to try out the SK3 Cheetah stock on here, but I have heard people say some good things about it, so you guys could always try that out. But I personally haven't, so I can't give it, my stamp of approval. I've just used the Demo Fate Tag stock, and this has worked out really, really nicely. The tuning is going to be a minus 1.29 and a minus 1.86 there on the bottom. So that's my full build there for the ISO 45. Next up, we're going to be taking a look here at the Tempest Razorback. This is another super low, virtually no recoil assault rifle, because we had the M13B, which did get a sizable nerf here to all of its damage ranges and everything like that. And it wasn't like, the super hardest hitting gun. So now it's definitely going to fall down some tiers. This gun's going to be getting way bumped up there because it is incredibly easy to use and it hits actually pretty hard. So our bigger D20 is our first attachment on here. A great suppressor all around. The tuning is going to be a plus 1.08 and a minus 0.35. Now we're going to go up in here and run the 16 Tanker V barrel. So this is just the best barrel out there because it gives you that increase in recoil control and bullet velocity, which is basically the two things you're looking for. And the cons are only your movement speed and aim down sight speed, which is not something we're particularly worried about here with an assault rifle. So it's basically only pros and no cons because we don't really care about those other things. And the recoil control aspect of this barrel is incredible. Highly recommend you guys actually use exclusively this, not this other one. I mean, that's got the built-in sight, which I don't really think is good. And also this one here, I mean, you lose recoil control, so that makes it even less effective at range, really, because you're not going to be able to hit your shots. So definitely go for this. The tuning is going to be a plus 0.13 and a plus 0.12. Now we're going to go down here and run. This is a very unique one. So the DM Proto Grip, I believe this is almost exclusive to this gun. I don't think you can really get this on any other one, but I mean, the pros to this are kind of ridiculous. Aiming idle stability, horizontal recoil control, and recoil stabilization. So, I mean, we have like our vertical or horizontal. The barrel is taking care of more recoil. I mean, we are for real going to be an absolute laser beam with this gun, and this is just a great setup. The tuning is giving you a plus 0.31 and a plus 0.25. Of course, throwing on that 60 round mag, we have the option for the 45 and the 60. Always go for the 60. It is your long range gun. You got to be able to have enough ammo in the magazine to be able to take out, more than one person. Sometimes, taking out one person can be like 30 rounds, 40 rounds. So it's nice to have a little bit of buffer in there, so you're not kind of like stressing, getting one kill and having to reload. You can potentially take out multiple. Lastly, we have the SC Recharge. Like I said earlier, this is a personal preference attachment between this, the aim op, like a red dot sight, something like that, etc. I just go for the SC Recharge because I like the way it looks, like the way it feels. For me, it just works really well on this gun, so that's why I got that there. The tuning is going to be a minus 2.03 and all the way for that close distance there on the bottom. So that's my full build there for the Tempest Razorback in Season 6. Now we're going to jump into one of my favorite SMG builds here as I'm recent. That's going to be the Vaznev 9K. And our first attachment on here is going to be the CAS-1 254mm barrel. This is going to make this gun more effective outside of that super minute close range. This will make this, compete a lot more so with something like the Lockman sub, the ISO 45. The Lockman didn't get a buff or a nerf, but I've talked about so much here that I wanted to not include the Lockman sub in a top 5 just because it's just, everyone knows the build for it by now. So we're just going to have this on here as our first attachment. The tuning is going to be a minus 0.32 and a minus 0.22. Now we're going to go over here and run the FSS OLE laser. You get a ton of benefits here, but keep in mind, your laser is visible. So this is one of those things, if you're planning on corner camping, don't sit in the corner, ADS at something. You should be corner camping anyways, but you can't be ADS at something because your laser will indeed be visible. People will be able to see that. It's actually pretty easy to be able to see. So, but you get a ton of pros with it, so it kind of like evens out. I rush around anyway, so it doesn't matter to me, but for some of you guys out there that maybe are sitting in corners, don't do that, but just keep that in mind. The tuning is going to be a minus 0.18 and a minus 18.10 on the bottom. Now to go and run the 45 round mag. Only option in here, 30 round stock, 45 is what we got here with this mag, so definitely recommend that. Now to go back and run the True Tack grip for that sprint to fire speed and aim down sight speed. Just gotta, for real, make this thing get, peak mobility, because we gotta be able to compete, like I said, with the Lockman sub and the ISO 45. The tuning is gonna be a minus 0.39 and a minus 0.15. And now we're gonna go up in here and run the broadside FCT stock as my final attachment. So this is a great mobility stock. I absolutely love this thing. I've ran the Otrizat, ran the Marquise. Now I've even ran the stockless. The stockless is pretty cool, but you lose so much your recoil control. It's kind of a little bit too much for my personal preference, and I have good recoil control capabilities, so I'm just like, that bounces around way too much for it to be effective. So the broadside FCT is kind of a real nice happy medium for me, where I get tons of mobility, but I also don't lose all my recoil control and doesn't bounce around like I got a no stock on it. The tuning is just left at 0 because you frankly can't tune it to make it good. Like, no matter what way you go, it's going to be bad. And and then a minus 0.85. Like, trust me, I've tried to figure it out, and you just can't tune it. It's one of those things. Anyways, that's my full build there for the Vaz 9K here in this season. And for a final gun here today, we're gonna be taking a look at the TAC V. This actually, for whatever reason, received a pretty sizable buff here on the update for a lot of its close to mid-range damage value. So this thing is gonna be pretty, hitting pretty damn hard here. So this gave me a great one here for like Resurgence and stuff like that. Maybe not for like Al Mazrah, but for Resurgence, this is going to be a great gun to be able to use. So our first attachment is going to be the Sock and Tread 40, that vertical and horizontal recoil control. Keep in mind, the last time you're using this had a pretty decent amount of recoil to be able to control. So we have to be able to run the correct attachments to be able to control all that. The tuning is to be a plus 0.41 and a plus 0.14. Now we're gonna go up in here and run the 18 Precision 6 barrel. This gives us that increase in damage range, hipfire accuracy, and of course bullet velocity. This is something that I highly recommend you guys actually do, just because I mean it's gonna make this thing so much more effective at range. And honestly, I mean, losing the ADS speed and hip recoil control, we don't really care about that. We're just trying to make this thing, extend out its damage range as much as possible. And being that they buffed the close and medium, we're gonna extend that out a pretty good ways. The tuning is gonna be a plus 0.35 and also a plus 0.35. Now we're gonna go down and run the F-Tech Ripper 56 here, aiming at stability, hip fire accuracy, and recoil stabilization. Definitely needed on this gun, like in a major way, so highly recommend that. The tuning is going to be a minus 0.28 and a plus 0.40. Now we're gonna go down here and run the 50 round drum. We are 100% needing this attachment. It's not like you're ever gonna run this in semi-automatic, so there's no reason to ever go for that 30. Always go for the 50. It is significantly more effective that way. And then last but definitely not least, I have the AIM Op V4 on here, and as you guys can see, I have that purple reticle, and that purple reticle is just because I have a sight from a different, bundle I've bought in the store that actually had that purple reticle as opposed to just like the red. I have one that's got like purple and green, and I think that maybe there's another color in there, maybe like a blue, but I just really enjoy having something else besides red, so if I can, I will definitely alter it out for a skin, and that's what I got here on this one. The tuning is going to be a minus 1.26, and all the max out for that far distance there on the bottom. I'm kind of making it so that it gives me a little bit of an illusion to push it farther away, that I have less visual recoil as opposed to up close, where like my 0 recoil guns, I can bring it up close and maybe get a little bit more into the sight, as opposed to this one, I want to keep it a little bit farther away because it's going to bounce around a little bit more. Just one of those like visual recoil things. But anyways, that's my full build there for the TAC V. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a like, subscribe with notifications turned on, and of course check out this other video on screen. I'll see you guys all next time.